Well, as the country is still mourning the late Speaker to Parliament, or to the 11th Parliament, that is the late Right Honourable Jacob Olanya, may his soul continue to rest in eternal peace. I think that is on a very sad note that the daily programming of will be in memory of mainly the late Speaker. But away from that, we shall stick to the business matters as that. Now, for the family as well as the close relatives to the late, may the Almighty God continue comforting you. We shall be giving you more of the details regarding his burial and when he will be returning to the country in our bulletins here. Matufuku Musamvu, Matufuku Emu, as well as the prime edition late at night in the 9 p.m. bulletin. Well, with that, this is Smart Means Business. It's Monday, and it is the 21st of March 2022. I think we are also driving the month of March steadily, right? We are only left with a week and a half to welcome the month of April, and I pretty much guess it's a roller coaster ride. It's been a roller coaster ride. It might look like as if it would be a January when you look at the fact that it appears in 5 weeks. And but hey, to the business community out there, I do believe it has actually been an easy one for some, not an easy one for most of the people, but for those that have actually been able to move closely and being able to actually execute their duties very well and very ably, it has been easier to go by. Well, this is Smart Means Business. Be the first to know. We are dedicated to be a morning kickstarter with relevant information regarding business. And besides that, let's have a look at what we're going to be having for you in today's show. We will be looking at the IMF approving 127 million disbursements to Uganda. Furthermore, we will be talking digital technology systems in the country and how best can we sensitize the masses about this particular one. We shall also be having the SMB across borders, and in the across borders, we shall be looking at the international stories that are making headlines from the world of business, and also looking at what is coming up from the SMB Insight, where we'll be looking at travel insurance, why you will need that travel insurance policy with you, and also we shall have the weather update, business tips, and the business quotes. Allow me to welcome you to Smart Means Business. This is how we do it. Let's kickstart it off with our SMB reports, as this particular report comes in from the International Monetary Fund, which has approved $127 million disbursements to Uganda. The clearance of $127 million, which is worth 455 billion Ugandan shillings credit, is for good performance. The International Monetary Fund has given Uganda a clean bill of health regarding the handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. And these particular funds and the economy as a whole, as the International Monetary Fund is giving Uganda an additional $127 million as part of an extended credit facility arrangement. Let's have the details of this report. In June last year, the International Monetary Fund Board approved 722 million special drawing rights, an equivalent of about $1 billion under the extended credit facility arrangement for Uganda to help the country overcome the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. And the approval enabled the immediate disbursement of $258 million, about 924 billion shillings then. Under the extended credit facility arrangement, the approval of the next disbursement depends on how well the country utilized the previous one, in terms of allocating them to where they are due, completing reforms and other commitments agreed to, among others. Following a review of Uganda by the International Monetary Fund staff that ended in December 2021, the government was found satisfactory in performance in most criteria. The International Monetary Fund says Uganda managed to keep its economy afloat, expanding by 3.8% in 2021 to 2022, though it is expected that the government's expenditure over its revenues will be higher than the planned due to slow economic growth. The fund notes that in spite of a challenging environment and some technical and legislative delays, all quantitative performance criteria were met and the reform agenda implementation is progressing. The fund also aims at boosting more inclusive private sector-led long-term growth, targeting reforms on prioritizing social spending, sustaining debt, strengthening governance, and enhancing the monetary and financial sector frameworks. The International Monetary Fund says Uganda managed to keep its economy afloat and it expanded by 3.8% in 2021 to 2022, this particular financial year. Though it is expected that the government's expenditure over its revenues will be higher than the plan due to slow economic growth. So when you look at the situation, the fund notes that in spite of a challenging environment and some of the technical and legislative delays, all quantitative performance criteria have been met and the reform agenda implementation is still progressing furthermore. And the fund also aims at boosting more inclusive private sector-led long-term growth, targeting reforms focusing on prioritizing social spending, among which sustaining debt, strengthening governance, and enhancing the monetary and financial sector frameworks as key priority. So when you look at the situation as of June last year, the International Monetary Fund board approved around 722 million special drawing rights, which was an equivalent to $1 billion under the extended credit facility. So when you look at the situation as well, the extended arrangement for Uganda to help the country overcome the effects of COVID-19 pandemic, and the approval furthermore appealed that the country will actually receive $258 million, which was about 924 billion shillings then. That is by June last year. Under the extended credit facility arrangement, the next disbursement depends on how well the country utilized the previous one. That is why we get to the situation where we hear that this particular clearance of $127 million is for good performance, according to the International Monetary Fund, after disbursing this particular amount of money to the Ugandan government. And under the extended credit facility arrangement, the approval of the next disbursement also depends on how well the country utilized the other previous one. And in terms of allocating them to where they are due, completing reforms such as commitments on using this money relatively and agreed among, and following a review of Uganda by the International Monetary Fund, this was actually done in December 2021. The government was found satisfactory in performance in most of the criteria. And according to the International Monetary Fund, the money that was given to the government was well utilized, more so during the time of COVID-19. It actually, reports coming out prove that the country used this money accordingly, and that is why you're seeing that they have actually approved a further $127 million for Uganda. That is thanking them for good performance and good use of their previous funds that they've been receiving from the International Monetary Fund. And this will actually come with an additional 127 million. This is an additional 127 million of that they received last year in the 722 million which was equivalent to 1 billion Ugandan shillings. Okay, and with that you can clearly look at situation and say, well, this time around the International Monetary Fund coming out and say Uganda was performing better with the money they've been giving to them. It is actually starting on a good note, even though we had claims coming in from my report from the Ministry of Health, where the parliamentary committee was actually putting the Ministry of Health onto what we call a committee, which was really trying to address matters where there was misuse of government funds, more so COVID-related funds or relief funds. But here, according to the International Monetary Fund, Uganda is actually receiving an additional money for good performance and good use of their previous. So that is actually getting back to a situation whereby you can now clearly see that the Ministry of Health did not wrongly use that particular money. Well, with that, we take a break. And after it, we do continue here with the SMB across borders, looking at the reports and business stories making headlines on the international scene.